Now to my hometown, Bryan, Texas, literally where I was born. But for our purposes, let's put this up here on the screen. It is the scene of a true mystery where Ghislaine Maxwell is currently being kept in a federal prison camp despite Bureau of Prisons regulations that say sex offenders shouldn't be at minimum security prisons. And in this investigation from the Wall Street Journal, they describe lockdowns in a mysterious meeting. A quiet Texas prison adapts to life with Ghislaine Maxwell. And they say that some 2 months ago, in mid-August, hundreds of inmates at a minimum security prison in Bryan were locked down during their usual time for strolling the grassy campus and visiting with family and friends. All but one, Ghislaine Maxwell.
We got a weird one for you today. So today we're talking about Ghislaine Maxwell and the new prison that she's in Texas. And there's some fishy things going on. And you just heard it right now that there was some type of lockdown for all of the inmates except for one person, and that was Ghislaine Maxwell. And we're not too sure what was going on, but as we listen to more of this news coverage, it's going to show you that some very favorable outcomes have been happening for Ghislaine, and that she's getting what some inmates would call special treatment. Let's hear some more.
While her fellow inmates were confined to their dormitories after breakfast, Maxwell met with several visitors in the federal prison camp chapel. Less than 3 weeks earlier, the Justice Department had moved her to the federal prison camp Bryan from that higher security facility in Tallahassee. That transfer was followed with an interview with the Justice Department senior official Todd Blanche during that whole transcript that they released from the Department of Justice, where we learned absolutely nothing, and she actually told multiple verifiable falsehoods.
See, that right there is one thing that's very fishy to me, is that she's already been on record saying multiple verifiable falsehoods, but yet they're still catering to her and moving her to this lower security prison, shutting down prison so that she can have secret meetings. Really fishy.
They say her unexpected arrival has upset the camp's usually relaxed atmosphere, leading to more frequent lockdowns, the addition of armed guards. Current and former inmates said in interviews that she appeared to receive, quote, unusually favorable treatment at times, sparking resentment in other inmates. Some prisoners heard that the lockdown was needed to accommodate important visitors, including her lawyers. But what other important visitors were there? And, one inmate recalled seeing her return to the dormitory that day with a smile on her face. When they asked her about the meeting, she said it went really well, but shared no other information. So what was so important to lock down the entire prison so that she could have a meeting in club? All right, this is club fed. They're supposed to be able to just do whatever they want. Lockdowns are apparently very rare in these facilities because people aren't stabbing and killing each other. Those people are over at maximum security prisons. So what's going on? Well, you get a whole lockdown. She has this meeting with an important figure. She's got a smile on her face. This is around the same time of the interview. What's happening?
Yeah.
We don't know. We don't know anything.
And remember, this is someone who should not be in this particular prison to begin with. Right. And there's been upset among the other inmates there and other sex offenders around the country who were like, hey, we aren't supposed to get these perks. So just her being in that facility is already preferential treatment. Then what this article also documents is that she's allowed to go and shower by herself after all the evenings. She's got her own room, whereas most of the inmates have to share. She gets, all sorts of special perks. They've stationed additional officers around the facility. She's gotten special treatment. Why? And then you've got this meeting where, they have locked down the entire facility. So none of the other inmates who normally during that time would be able to, walk around the grounds. This was also the time when they can normally have visitors and visit with family and friends. That all stops so that Ghislaine can have her special little meeting.
So what it sounds like is she's basically like the president of the prison system. She's getting her own special room. She's got her own shower and gets a shower alone. She's getting lockdowns and shutdowns all over across the whole prison so that she can have special meetings with her lawyer and some other people. She's got special guards there, or more armed guards there. She doesn't even have to share a cell with anyone, which everybody else has to share. And they just stated that this is a very non-violent prison, so there should be no reason why she shouldn't have to share a cell just like everybody else in the prison system or in that prison itself. Like I said, Very fishy.
Like, what the hell is going on here? They also mentioned that there's been an absolute ban on any of the other prisoners talking to the press. And there have been punishments meted out because of them talking to reporters. They've been transferred out. You know, it's considered a big perk to be at this facility. So there was one instance that they documented where this individual talked to the press, and then they were moved out of this facility to a higher security prison. So, you know, as a consequence, it appears as punishment for daring to speak to the press about Ghislaine's treatment and what life is like on the inside. There was also another incident that they mention here, which was sort of sketchy, where there were gunshots right near the facility. And again, you know, they came in the middle of the night and, you know, they secured Ghislaine first and foremost. And then what the official story was, oh, this was some sort of shots fired away from the facility, like in the direction away from the facility. It had some sort of gang activity. There were no injuries reported. And the inmates were very skeptical of that story, that the official story was actually what happened there. So just really insightful about the way she's getting all of this incredible preferential treatment. Again, why? This is a convicted sex offender. Why is she getting all this special treatment? What is going on there? Why does the government want to coddle this lady? Great question that, you know, I think people can ponder. And then the specifics of this secret meeting and whatever the hell went down there.
Nobody knows. That's all. Like, as you said, there's some very sketchy stuff. She has special protection. She apparently is, you know, guests being ordered to lock down, returning to their bunks. She gets treatment, extra security. You have people who in the facility who spoke to Wall Street Journal reporters getting transferred within an hour of the phone call. A single hour of phone call to the Wall Street Journal, and they got transferred to a higher security facility. For what? For talking to a reporter about the special treatment that Ghislaine Maxwell. So they are going to extraordinary lengths right now to make her life comfortable, to get her everything that she needs. She gets to pick and choose who her, you know, the people in her room are. I mean, this is not normal for anybody who's in one of these prisons, even though it's club fed, like it's still prison, or it's supposed to be.
Right.
And yeah, this is as good as it gets. At the same time, we've got CBS News out with a new, honestly, I want to give them credit. They've been late to it, but give them credit. They showed up big time on the suicide investigation of Epstein's cell. I know you guys talked about it a little bit, but they talked specifically about how the crime scene was not preserved. There was no proper investigation into this in the way that a murder or suicide investigation should be conducted. So here's Scott McFarlane. He's a journalist over there. Let's take a listen.
CBS News has spent years investigating what happened in that cell where Epstein died in New York in 2019. And a series of 90 photos from the scene, obtained by 60 Minutes and CBS News, do raise questions about the initial handling of the scene and the initial wave of the response. The photos show, at least they indicate, items having been moved around. Some of the items from the cell, the mattress, Jeffrey Epstein's body, had been moved before FBI investigators were able to respond. A former NYPD detective, a private investigator who spoke with CBS News, says that does complicate things, that it appears this was handled as if it were a suicide scene and not necessarily a possible crime scene or murder scene. Also noted, lack of evidence markers in the photos. The former NYPD detective said not the clumsiness, but the lack of thoroughness with the photo taking itself is an issue. That there seems to be a failure to follow some basic or traditional forensic tests and exams. All of that can complicate an investigation and raise questions. You know, our investigation does not contradict the official determination of suicide, but it does seem like there were some insufficiencies through the process. And all of that means that now we are 6 years later, 6 years after the fact. It's going to add potential fuel as there's more considerations of broadening the investigation of Epstein case files, releasing more documents, and as Maxwell is poised to sit down with congressional investigators soon.
So you hear that, and if the Epstein case wasn't weird enough as it is when it comes to his suicide, and that the cameras were out, both security guards were gone to the bathroom or sleeping or something like that. So the two security guards that were there that were supposed to be watching them on 24/7 suicide watch happened to be asleep. The cameras just happened to go out when he ended up suiciding or unaliving himself. And it's just, all of it just adds up as super weird. And then you hear about the evidence where there's barely any evidence markers. They were moving things prior to the FBI getting there to conduct their investigation of the cell itself. The bed was moved, items were moved. There were almost no evidence markers, just a very lack of even trying to maintain the crime scene at all. And then we roll into Ghislaine Maxwell, and she's getting the red carpet rolled out for her in these prisons, and she's getting all the special treatments, and inmates can't even talk about her being in the prison to media, or else they're transferred to a higher security prison and lose the luxury of the current prison that they're in Texas. It just keeps getting more weirder and weirder. And it's a little frustrating because it's a very drip. We're getting a slow drip when it comes to information on this. And we had people not wanting to release the Epstein files. And then we have some of the Epstein files. And then people are saying, oh, there's nothing in the Epstein files. And nobody seems to just want to be transparent and say, here, take all of it. Here it is. And that's what we really want. And that goes for both parties. I want Trump to release it just like I wanted Biden to release it. So I just want to see what was in those files and what's going on, and actually see the names of the people that are being talked about in these files. But I guess all we can do is wait and see what's going to happen. But like I said, it's very frustrating that it's a slow drip. We're just getting baby pieces of information here and there. But I'm here for it. I want to see what's going on. I'm still intrigued by this story 6 years later after he has already passed away. So, or is he? That's another topic for another video. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys today. I'll see you on the next one.